I realized that this entire header section is actually an image. It's not something that was designed on Figma. Why would you do that? You are a freelancer, you're supposed to design it. This is much bigger font and this is much smaller. Just because the text is long doesn't mean you reduce the size of the font. That's a horrible thing to do, especially for heading. Another bright thing here, then there's a huge text out there. Everything is shouting for attention at the same time. Not the best thing to do. Just spend some time learning Figma. It's a wonderful tool. It feels like a generic website, a good website, nice touch. Why isn't this heading like this? So it just feels like this entire section was like, copied and pasted from some other website and then just made to work here without anything else. It just feels like this is a part of someone's head is added to someone else's body. It feels like these two freelancers are sat together in the same room and designed. I spent 60,000 to get one design done on Fiverr. But was it actually worth it? Welcome back finally to a new episode of Sapta Reviews, and this time let's take things not 1 but 10 steps further. I paid 3 freelancers on Fiverr to make a landing page based on this brief. It was the same brief that was shared with all 3 of them. I've already received all the submissions and well, I have so many thoughts. Let's break down the submissions one by one. This has to be one of the most interesting and insightful videos I have made in a while. I also had a lot of fun making this one. So make sure you watch it till the very end because I will show you my own version for the same problem statement if I had designed it. So don't miss that one. Let's get right into it. So the process begins with where you drop a job, a brief or the description of what you're looking for. Let the matching begin. So you give a short title and description of what you're looking for. You can attach some references and all, and then you can talk about your timeline, your budget, and then you go ahead and post it. Now after that, 2 things can happen. Either you can sit back and relax and let people reach out to you based on the job that you have dropped if they are interested in working. And the second thing is with this thing itself, you go and approach other freelancers that you feel are good, right? Where you go and tell them, hey, this is my job that I have dropped. What do you want to work on it? And they will evaluate and do it. What I chose to do for this one is the former one because I have limited budget. And that's why I just sat back and relaxed and I waited for people to come back with their bids. So what I'm looking for is essentially an 80 to 90% done design so that I can spend another 1 hour or so on it and get what I'm looking for because I would also want to use my inputs. I'm a designer myself, right? Now the criteria that I picked are a couple of them. First of all, the rating itself. For example, Tariq Tawheed is one of the freelancers that I have picked. I'll talk about the other 2 as well. And one of the things that I looked into every freelancer was their rating. Now this person has an average of 5-star rating from 306 ratings, which is pretty good. He's from Bangladesh and he speaks the languages. He's a UI UX designer and he's also a level 2 designer. Now every designer, every freelancer in Fiverr has a level associated so that you know where they stand compared to the rest of the platform. And then when you hover over it, it also tells you what it is, right? Has met high performance criteria and has a proven track record for meeting client expectations, which is good. There's some description and there is some work as well. But of course, I have looked into this work to get a basic idea of how they work, but I understand that these are all client projects and a lot of it is dependent on what kind of brief the client has given. So while I looked into the work, there were other things that I considered more important than the work itself, at least for this case. Another very important indicator that I saw out here was this thing called repeat client. Now, if you see, these are nothing but the reviews. So I'm not just looking at the ratings or the reviews, but also this thing which mentions repeat client, which Fiverr has very interestingly put out there. You see, people coming and using your services is one thing, but people coming, using your services and liking it so much that they come back to you later is a great thing for any service provider. So this repeat client, this reviews from repeat client was another important criteria that I personally looked into when picking these 3 freelancers. Now, the first person I picked up was Tariq Tawheed, and he's a level 2 designer. And the second person that I picked was Valex Designs. He's a level 1 designer. And the third person that I picked, of course, I don't have that person's confirmation as to whether I can explicitly talk about the person's name or not. That's why I'll keep the name and everything blurred. But the third person that I wanted to pick was someone who is not even level 1. In fact, when I started with this person, when I started posting this, there was no level mentioned in this person's profile at all. all. So I was under the impression that this person is probably level 0 or something lower than level 1. But now I see it's showing up as level 2. So it means that this level thing is probably something that people can turn on and turn off in their profiles. Maybe this person had it turned off before and now they chose to turn it on. So although I wanted a level 0, level 1 and level 2 designers, but I ended up having 2 level 2 designers and 1 level 1 designer. But that's okay. I'm not much worried about it. But the most interesting thing out there is all these 3 designers had actually quoted the same amount of money even though their levels might be different, which is around 18 to 20,000 after one round of negotiation. I'm very bad with negotiation, but I just did it once. If I had negotiated harder, I'm pretty sure I could have got better rates, but that's okay. Let's see what kind of work they have got to show. Now here I am with the work. This is the first freelancer. Now I'll be judging all these work based on 4 criteria, which is basic UX, basic visuals, design choices, some of the choices that the designer had taken for this project, and number 4, capturing Gen Z vibes, which was like one of the necessary requirements. Now you see, these are marketing websites. Now the marketing websites has one main purpose for almost every marketing website, is that one task that you want your viewers to do. In this case, it is to register for the event. Since this is for an event, the main task for this website is to attract people, make them understand what it is so that they find it valuable, attractive, and eventually go ahead and click on the register button to register for the event. That is the single most important work of this website, the jobs to be done of this website. Let's go ahead and see how the submission looks like for the first person. This is what the first freelancer had submitted. Of course, first as in this is the freelancer from whom I do not have the confirmation if I could show or talk about the name of the person, right? So I'm just masking the name of the person at all. And this is the work. I will just scroll down a bit, let you look into what it is. Well, there are many sections into it, and the most important is, let's talk about the first section or the hero section. Like I said, this section should immediately tell what this website is about, make it feel attractive, and let the user click on the button and register, which is in this case. So let us break it down properly. Let's look at the button first. There's a button called Register Now, clicking on which will let me register for the event, which is good. But there's also one more button which says register now at the top, which is top right corner. Now, why have 2 buttons which does the same thing in the same fold? Not ideal, because I know both of them are doing the same thing, but why confuse by having 2 different buttons for doing the same thing? Not needed, perhaps. What would be a better thing to do is, in the first section, since you already have a prominent button right at the center, maybe this one is not needed. And when the user starts scrolling, maybe this header, the one with home, about us and all kind of sticks, and that's where the other register now button opens up. You see, the whole function of this website is to tell the viewers more about what the event is. And at any point of reading, if they're convinced that, hey, this is something that I want to attend, there should be a button right away which they can click and register. For example, I might be a viewer and I have read till here and now I'm convinced I should need a button to go click it. That's where that sticky button at the top helps. So in the first fold, you don't need the button, but when you start scrolling, then because this button will go away, this is on the first section, then the top sticky button will remember for the rest of the page. That is a better thing to do in my opinion. And also this is a single page website. So all these tabs that you see at the top are essentially anchors. So when you click on them, it will scroll the page to the respective sections, which is, maybe about or sponsorship or highlights or whatever it is. And this logo, of course, is a placeholder, because I've clearly told all the freelancers that please go ahead and use any placeholder word marked logo, because we don't have it yet. And also all the copies are left to the freelancers for now. Ideally, that should come from the client, which is me. But in this case, I've said, please go ahead and have all the liberty to do it like the way you want. Use placeholder copies, or you write your own copy, or you take a completely different direction. It's totally up to you. It's left to your creativity. And that's what we are seeing right now. Now, if I look at the top section itself, this repeating of the button is an issue with basic UX, I would say. But okay, that's a fixable UX. Now let's understand other things as well. They've used bright colors out here, which is good because it was one of the requirements as well, since it's for Gen Z and all. And I see a shade of red, this one, which is nice. But I also see another shade of red here, which is slightly darker than the one here. Why use 2 different shades of red? I don't understand. One shade of red could have been fine. Now, as I was breaking my head behind it, I realized that this entire header section is actually an image. It's not something that was designed on Figma. It's an image including the text and also this button at the bottom which says get started now. Now I remember the person had actually shown me this version before, when the preview was being discussed, right? Now I said that, is there any way you can make this button a little more prominent, because I felt it was getting lost amongst all the things which are present out here. And that's when the person gave me this design with the button slightly bigger. I said, okay, fine, this is maybe better than what it was before. But what I didn't realize was this entire background was an image. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You are a freelancer, you're supposed to design it. Now this makes me feel that this is a downloadable image from some internet or some place and then you've just put it in your design, which is not right. But okay, I will let that go this time. Let's look at the other things which are present out here. I see that the person has tried to use a certain shape as a repeating pattern, which is okay, which is good. Like the opposite corners are pointed and the other opposite corners are rounded, which is nice. Like the shape is kind of continued here and here as well. But what I see is, why is this like a sticker cut and this is a normal cut? Why are we mixing styles again? Yes, I understand that. When I searched in Pinterest for Gen Z references, I saw that the sticker cut is apparently a thing. So maybe this is a good direction, if you think so. But then why not do it in the other things? Why only one image has that sticker cut and the rest of the things doesn't? You should either have it everywhere or you should not have it. Like, I don't see a reason why this picture of a girl should have it and this shouldn't have, right? That's a weird thing. I don't understand why. Now, even if I look at the font, this typeface is a nice one. It's a serif font, but this is not used in any other place. Just this hero section, this font, and every other section has a very different font for the headers. We'll come back there as well. I have some feedback there as well. In the entire website, this header is the only place where this font is used. Right? There is this other font as well, which is used for body and all, which is an inter, which is a good idea because, this fancy fonts are usually not so well readable in smaller sizes. So that way, choice of having some other font is good. But then why have only this font? Or is it because this is a downloaded image and you had no control over the font out there? Weird. Right? And the third thing that I see in this header section is, even though it has bright colors and tries to capture some Gen Z vibes, but there are too many elements present everywhere and each of them is grabbing or trying to attract my attention. So this can potentially distract the user rather than directing their attention towards the button or towards some communication. Because you see a bright thing here, another bright thing here, another bright thing here, then there's a huge text out there. Everything is shouting for attention at the same time. Not the best thing to do. Let's come to the next section. Again, what do? This is also an image and not a font. If I just show you this way, this is actually an image if you see and not a font. Why? And why use this brush font again when it is not used anywhere else? You could have either continued with inter or you could have reused this typeface, the serif font that you've used at the top. Why just introduce random things for no reason? Weird, right? And the worst thing is, even if you do, at least the size should be kept consistent. This is supposed to look and feel like a font. Maybe you didn't have the font or you generated it somewhere else and you brought it. That's okay. But here, if I just bring these things outside, you will see that this are terribly different sizes. If I just fill it up with white, you will see this is much bigger font and this is much smaller. Just because the text is long doesn't mean you reduce the size of the font. That's a horrible thing to do, especially for heading. Okay, that's how it is. And I also feel the typography out here is a little off. The line spacings and the thickness, everything, it just is a little weird. And the moment I do this, you see, the person has pressed enter at the end of every line to make it fit within the box. Why do you have to do that? All that you need to do is just paste a paragraph and choose this option, which is auto height, and it will just flow the paragraph. This person has hit enter. That's why the moment I do this, you see this is going on a different line because the person had hit an enter after printing and all of these. Oh man, just spend some time learning Figma. It's a wonderful tool. We are not in the 90s where we are using a notepad. The good thing out here, however, are these shapes, because they at least try to continue the shapes that you see on the header. That opposite rhombus sort of shape. The same shapes are kind of used here, which kind of brings some sort of consistency from what has used before. And I also see similar sort of things for the brand section. Of course, this heading style is, the size is small, which I called out, but the logos are attempted to put inside the same shape, which is also okay. fine. Now you see this section, the point of this section is to bring more credibility to the event. So, the logos do help, and it was a part of the brief as well. What I particularly liked about this design is this highlight section, because this wasn't explicitly mentioned in the brief, but this person did it regardless, because this is for content creators, the Instagram reel sort of people. But I'm assuming these are all placeholders, but the idea of having video as a media is a good thing. And this section can feel vibrant when we have all these things going on. The next section is testimonials. Yes, it was a part of the brief that let's have some testimonials as to what people think about it. People who have attended the past events and all. It's okay, but a testimonial works only when there is a credibility associated with the people. Now, since this event is all for content creators and influencers, why not mention about the credibility? Who is Aaron Beast? Maybe, one line, their Instagram handle or something as a part of this framework would have made more sense, because Aaron Beast otherwise could be anyone, right? Since this is a platform where all credible people are there, because one of the requirement was that people need to have at least 20,000 followers on Instagram to be able to join this event. That's a missed opportunity, I feel. That should have definitely been included as a part of the design, right? However, okay, the same shape is kind of continued. All right, sure. The next section is events. I don't know why it's called events, because this entire website is for one event. The Mumbai, foodies thing, although influencers are dreamers as the header. I don't know why the person put it. Maybe because this was a part of the image. You see, this is an image. Okay. All right. So now this small section of events is not needed, since this entire page is for event. Maybe some other heading would have sufficed. But the function of this section is to again repeat the register. Hey, we are almost towards the end of the website. So are you sold? Here's another big button to register. That's a good, reinforcement of what we want the users to do. That's a good touch, but the way things are laid out is questionable, right? Now, this is a circular thing. It's like a stamp. Why have a rectangular button inside it? It's just a misfit. It visually doesn't fit. If you want to use it as a badge, maybe use it as a badge in some other place. Or if you want to have a button, maybe think of some other button, maybe a circular or something. Why have a rectangular button inside this? Because it is just a misfit again. And the next part, newsletter. Was never asked for a section on newsletter, but the person did it regardless. Okay, I'll not talk about it. Maybe in the final design, I will just remove it because it's not one of the requirements. Now in the footer, I know this is a logo, which is supposed to be a logo placeholder, but why is it center aligned with this? Because everything else is kind of left aligned. There's resources and the resources at the bottom, the social and the socials at the bottom are all left aligned in a way. But this one feels like a misfit. Again, center aligned with left aligned text. So that's the design from the first freelancer. What I like about it is decent attempts are being made to bring some Gen Z vibes into it. Some of these shapes are continued throughout the design, which just brings some amount of consistency. Although this video section doesn't have this, of course, that could be an overkill, but okay, I understand that it's a good touch. And I also like this highlight section, which was not mentioned in the brief, but it's a good thing. So good job out there, because this is in sync with the Gen Z and the content creator space. What I don't like here are, of course, inconsistency in visual elements and colors, especially these buttons, the colors. This whole thing being an image, it just reduces the credibility of the designer so damn much. I think now I know why this person has not responded if I could use their name in the video. Anyways. And also the overall appeal, I feel could have been slightly better, because there are some minor UX problems, like the users could actually get distracted rather than directing towards one particular action, especially in the header section. So that was the submission number 1. Now let's quickly look at submission number 2 by Tariq Tawheed. The same fundamentals we'll use: basic UX, basic visuals, design choices, and capturing Gen Z vibes. So these are largely the 4 verticals I'm going to judge. And this is the submission. I'll just scroll once so that you see what is happening here. Right. It's a relatively shorter website. Okay. Now, one thing that I had told all the freelancers is just go ahead and use any placeholder logo. And what I feel this person had done is this person has picked something called eco food, and maybe the logo had some colors here. And that might have influenced him into picking the color combination for this one, which I feel is probably not vibing well with the Gen Z users. Now, this is perfect. Now, eco food, if I look at the logo, it feels like something to do with ecology or environment or some sort of organic thing. So this pale orange and this shade of green and this yellow probably works there. But in our case, where it is all vibrant, it's about younger people, it's about food, it's about content creation, this color is probably not fitting in. Now, if I look at the header, let's talk about the good things first. The good thing is this style that is picked up, which is this hard shadow, right? You see this rectangle with hard corners and dark borders, and it also has this orange, it's kind of a shadow, the overlapping thing that you see out there. That's going on a lot these days, and actually people are using it. Figma has made it popular for their config, the designs for their config even. So it's a nice fresh thing, but the colors aren't working. And if I also look at it, this style is just used here at the header and nowhere else. If I see the rest of the page, this style is not used anywhere. It just feels like this is a part of someone's head is added to someone else's body. It just feels like it. Even if I look into the header, the styles are not carried forward. For example, this border, the boxes have particular style. The buttons have a very different style with rounded corners and all. In this world, do you think the buttons would look like this? And why would it have softer shadows when the entire vibe that you're picking up is of harder shadows or no shadows and harder borders? So this button feels like a misfit. And the biggest issue that I have in this is this thing. What is it? I know this has a purpose. It is talking about the date and the location, which are important things. But why does it look like a huge button? In fact, when the first version of this design was submitted, this register now button was not there, even though it was called out clearly in the brief that we need a button on the header section, right? Only this part was present, which is the date and the location. Now, this feels like a button, but this is clearly not a button because there are too many things out there. So I had specifically said that we need a call to action in the first fold, and that's when he has added there. When he was about to add it, when I gave that feedback, I wanted to see if the designer actually removes this one or gives this a different treatment, because the moment these two starts coming in the same fold, problems starts arising because they start competing with each other. But the person didn't do it. They just added a button. Okay, which is okay, but which I feel is a problem because it could be distracting out here. And on top of that, if you see the rest of the elements, like this strips that you say, which says register now. Now the communication wise, it's great because it is reinforcing and telling the user to register. Now, if this button had been here and if the date and the location could have been, mentioned in some other way, I think functionally this design would be great. But now that there are too many elements, they're just adding to the noise. Similar problem which the previous design had. Too many elements, everything is grabbing for attention. This image is prominent, this card is prominent, this huge pill is prominent, the strips are prominent, and so is the register button. So when everything shouts for attention, nobody gets an attention. That is the biggest challenge that I see in this design, right? Next is, okay, what's cooking? Some text about it, and of course the sponsor section. Now I can't say that it's great, or neither can I say it's bad. It is just there. Now, the next section is what's on the menu. Now, this is an interesting thing that the person has done, and it just shows essentially what are the things that will happen, kind of like, the agenda of it. But what is challenging are a couple of things. First of all, this text itself. Why is the text rotated? And that too in this way. So I'll have to tilt my head like this and read, right? Sure, tilted text, especially, when done in a counterclockwise like this, it works as long as the text is small. Had it been just one word agenda, this would work, right? But this is a big sentence. So I would have to not just tilt my head, but also scroll to read what it is. And that's a big challenge in my mind. Second thing is, why does only this one have this style? If you see, this is actually two text kept on top of each other. One has only the stroke and the other has only the fill. Sure, I understand that's a way of doing it. That's a visual design choice that you have taken. But why is it only in this section in this entire website? If this is the style that you want to pick up, why isn't the header like this? Why isn't this heading like this? Why isn't that heading like this? So again, mix of styles, it just feels like a stray element out of nowhere. And the second thing is, if this was the style element that you were using, why do you use these bubbles or teardrop things once again? It feels like it's from the older design, from the not older design from the other freelancer. It's more in sync with what the other freelancer has done. But again, this is like mix of styles. It feels like these two freelancers are sat together in the same room and designed, which is not the case, obviously, because they don't know each other. I know them, that's it. But again, mix of styles, design choices, not the best thing out here. And the next section, if I see, okay, these are what influencers are saying. Now, functionally, this is a better design than the other testimonial section that we have seen in the previous design here, right? Because this was just some text and just the name. But here the person has actually spoken about who this person is. Instagram food blogger, maybe Aisha eats the handle. and some review. Okay, this is a better approach, but again, visual design wise, why are these capsicums and these cherries and tomatoes out here? Okay, they're food, but this feels more like a recipe thing more than anything else. And the colors, again, they're not vibrant, they're a little dull that way. All right, register now is again being reinforced, and this is the time, and this is where it ends. All right, so what I like about this, of course, I have called out is the style that was just picked up in the header section. That is nice. Lot of good things could have been done with that, but he chose not to continue that style. I don't know why. The second thing that I like here is, of course, the this section where they have called out, done a better job with the testimonial section from an information point of view. Now, what I don't like about this design is the choice of colors and the inconsistencies. Why are so many different styles mixed? Why are so many different font styles and typefaces mixed? This one, for no reason. So yeah, that's the second submission. Now let's quickly go to the third submission, which is by Valex Designs. Now again, I will judge it based on the same 4 criteria: basic UX, basic visuals, design choices, and capturing Gen Z vibes. Now this person has actually gone to the extent of doing a few more things than that was asked for. For example, the brief always asked for a responsive mobile design as well, but no one else did, which is okay because, I would judge just the designs and not the mobile screen as such, but this is the only person who has actually delivered it, which is good. And also the registration form. Now, all of them had asked me about what will happen when you click register now. I had told all of them that a Google form will open up, and that's where, I will capture all of them. But this person proactively went ahead and made the form as well, which is good, delivering more than what is asked for. He designed it not just for the web, but also for mobile, and also what will happen after the registration is done and so on. So brownie points for that, but let us go ahead and look into the main designs, right? Now, the biggest thing that I see the moment I land into this is no way giving Gen Z vibes. Choice of colors, choice of visual elements, anything. In fact, it is so damn straightforward that if I look at it, if I put anything out here in place of the picture of this lady, if I put a laptop or a mobile phone or a packet of chips, the same website could work. It just feels like. I don't see any special effort that is done to bring out the food or Gen Z vibes in this. It feels like a generic website, a good website, but it doesn't really capture some of the things which are mentioned in the brief. Again, if I look at it, this is meant for Gen Zs, right? This lady looks like an established chef who's probably in her 30s and 40s. Doesn't look like someone a Gen Z would connect with. Sure, she could be a prominent figure, but is that something I would put on the first fold of it? This is about a creators meetup, Gen Z food bloggers meetup. Would I choose this? I don't know. And also some of the elements which are used out here feels too dated. Something that used to happen maybe 5-10 years back. Today in this world, I don't really know. That's about the header, and also the choice of colors. This is like a dull terracotta color. It doesn't give me the feel of food or something modern and vibrant. But what I like in this design is this section. See you in a counter. Now this counter is interesting because anything which is time dependent, it's good to have a counter because that makes the users feel that this is going to start in these days, so maybe I'll go and register. So this is a nice touch which the person has added, followed by about the event section. Again, no nonsense, simple thing, not bad, not great either. The next thing is esteemed sponsor. So these are the sponsor logos. It is arranged in some kind of an array, but my question is, what if there are 1 or 2 more logos? How will you form this array? How is it going to work? I don't really have the answer out there. And also the same terracotta color is kind of continued. And the next section is what to expect from GIF 24, which is the name of the event, I guess. Why this shade of orange? If you are using this terracotta color everywhere, where did this color come from? Either you could continue using this color or that color. It is just a mix of color for no reason. And it also, these 2 colors don't feel like they're a part of the same palette. So again, visual choices are mixed for no reason. And also I see a wide gap out here. I guess this is a Figma thing because this image should come all the way to the end, for somehow the buttons are also moving, but okay, I'm assuming this is a glitch of Figma, but not with the designer. The next section is an interesting one which says MasterChef lineups. Maybe some master chefs would come and do something. Again, this wasn't asked for, they have put it. Nice touch, but visually it doesn't feel like a part of the same family of design. No, I'm not mentioning that, these are colored images and these are black and white images. Black and white images are perfectly fine. But look at the style of the cards itself. They all have rounded corners. and this don't have rounded corners. It just feels like this entire section was like, copied and pasted from some other website and then just made to work here without anything else, right? Now, if I go detail a little more technical stuff, if you look at these names, this typography out there, Chef Kavita Patel, of course, she's not Chef Kavita Patel, he's Sanjeev Kapoor, we all know him. But if I just look at it, the typography, the spaces between the text doesn't feel adequate because first of all, this space itself, this gray box that you see is relatively smaller. Now, if I were to fit this text, I would reduce the spacing between the name and the executive chef Masala Magic that you see out here, because otherwise the law of proximity is getting violated. Now, if you look at this text alone, this orange executive chef Masala Magic, it has more space at the top between these two than at the bottom. So it just feels like this is almost sticking to the bottom rather than making it feel like it's a subtext of this one itself. So the simple thing would be to reduce some space between these two, right? So if you just reduce it a little more and add some spacing at the bottom here, maybe make it 20, it starts feeling much better. Just compare this section and that section. You see the difference. So yes, this is where I feel the typography is a little off. But other than that, I personally like this section, even though it feels like a part of some other world itself. The design elements are not carried forward in this section, just purely feels like a copy and paste. All right, quickly, let's look into the mobile design as well. Here I see one conflicting thing. So here the location was a part of the header. Here, the location is a different strip altogether. Now, this doesn't feel like a responsive design because it just feels like it's a new design element that just got added into it. Doesn't feel like a part of the same family. Okay, the header part is same. The CU in the counter is present. About the event. Esteemed sponsors. Why is the color of the section different? I don't understand. Why should the color change in mobile? For no reason. And what's wrong with these logos? Why would the logos just scale down in mobile? Won't they take some other form? Won't they, either take vertical space or horizontal scrollable space? Because in this size, the logos won't be visible. This is not a mobile responsive form of the one that you see on the left-hand side. Not right. All right, the rest of the page, the grid becoming one column is fine. Another one, grid becoming a single column, is also fine. Okay, the rest of the things are fine. And also this form that I see, I think this form is well done, although it was not asked for it. All the spacing, padding, everything is good out here. Although I feel that the spacing between these two could have been reduced a bit. But overall, this is good work. This form alone, of course, it's pretty basic, but it is well done. Now, those were the 3 submissions which all the 3 freelancers have done. Now, if you see, none of them are perfect. None of them are completely trash either. All 3 of them had good aspects and some not so good aspects. So what I did after this is I picked the good aspects from each of these and I quickly assembled one version of mine, which I feel is good enough to go live. And I'm going to show it to you in a while. What I did was the header section, I didn't like in any one of them. So I completely rethought how the header should be. And rest of the section, I picked stuff from here and there, fixed some of the inconsistencies, changed some of the colors, fixed some of the typography, and we are done. So the whole point, if you remember why I did this exercise, was not to have a design that I can completely ship right away, but to have a good starting point. Well, not starting point, maybe 80 to 90% done sort of a design, so that the designer in me can sit on them and spend another 30-40 minutes and polish it and make it. And that's exactly what I have done. I have taken all these 3 designs, sat another 45 minutes with them, and I made this variant. I personally like this variant. Now, whether this vibes with the Gen Z or not, that Gen Z viewers should tell me in the comments. And that was a video. I hope you learned something useful. What do you think of these designs? Which one did you like the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you want a detailed breakdown of how I designed my version of the design, let me know in the comments and I'll make a dedicated video for the same. Check out Fiverr from the link in the description and watch this video for a full guide on how to become a UX designer in 2024 and this one to become a better designer in just 15 minutes. This is Sapta signing off and I will see you in the next one.